communities are way ahead of the provincial and federal governments. And there's loads of ways, I won't list them all, but from economic development to recreation to planning to waste management to water supply. You know, this is how people live their lives. And there's all kinds of ways to partner. And that's some of what Kelly Vodden's work in the governance part of the Rural Urban Project will look at. Some of it's formal, some of it's informal. And Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador are at the conference in Gander right now is releasing 3 discussion papers. That's going to upset a lot of people, actually. They're pushing the envelope. There's community rivalry still. Geography, in some areas you have no choice. Nain can't share garbage disposal with someone else. So we need to adapt appropriate solutions for rural remote, rural non-adjacent, rural adjacent. And you have to come up with fair resource sharing. Dick Rounds was doing some of that, negotiating it in Manitoba 15 years ago. Joint municipal tax sharing for new intensive livestock operations. Because it was going to impact all the neighboring communities, but it was only going to be in one of them. Well, we need a lot more of that, but it ain't easy. So this one goes back to my PhD research. I'll get through the rest quickly here. We have some questions. Money matters. This is a checklist I developed comparing local government in Norway to local government in Newfoundland. And not just government. You think of an NGO, even a government agency. Money matters. And he who pays the piper calls the tune. So if you don't have taxation powers, you are going cap in hand, policy program constraints, rule by auditor, federal government rules. There's more people counting the money and tracking it than giving it out. Why don't we decentralize some of that capacity? Same with the province. Human resources. Oh, no, we can't give them more responsibility. They don't have the capacity. Well, it's chicken and egg. I have kids, teenagers, who drive the car now. Well, I brought them to Young Drivers of Canada. I didn't give them a new car. They pay half the insurance, and if they have an accident, they pay all of it. You know, there are mechanisms you can develop to build capacity and transfer responsibility. It's an easy excuse. But we need better leadership at the local level. We've got to get over the old cliques, the old boys clubs. We need better governance so that formal governance mechanisms, municipal government, can work with NGOs and the social sector. Absolutely have to have skilled staff who report to the local level. It's great to have good, committed government staff, federal, provincial, at the local level, but that's deconcentration, not decentralization. If you don't report locally, you're still up the line to the deputy and the minister, and we know what that, and they have a broader mandate. Nordic countries are light years ahead of us in having skilled, trained, well-paid staff with careers and benefits at the local level. And community participation, Oscar Wilde said socialism would never work because nobody wants to go to all the meetings. And it's true. But you do have to engage at the mall, in the media, whatever ways you can, in the schools. Uh-oh. What did I do there? Oh, sorry. Okay. Legal authority. This is the one that I think matters, that touchy-feely community development types often leave out. Many people in the 60s got all hung up in don't trust the state, don't trust the man, business is evil. We fight wars over the power of the state. It's the only institution with ultimate recourse to the legitimate use of force. If it ain't with you, it's again you. And we need local state powers working with development and held accountable with local democratic accountability and legitimacy. Most social organizations and NGOs are dart leagues. They're nice people who get together, have a mandate, and do good stuff. But they can't speak for anybody but their members. Only government in our democratic system has access to universal franchise. It's why, as weak as municipal governments are, when they get their act together and they fight back against the province or the feds, you can't ignore them. You may not get what you want, but geography matters. Form should follow function. What functions are you trying to perform? What size area makes sense? Our existing municipal government boundaries, and certainly in Newfoundland and Labrador, really aren't useful for much of anything. intermunicipal, where the action is. And time. If these are time-limited projects, time-limited funding, you're always scurrying just to get money for the next project. Nobody can have core funding but government. That's a neat deal. It's no wonder everybody wants to work for government. It's no wonder we have that triangle in terms of local capacity. So rural and urban Canadians have a lot in common, but the largest urban centers are losing their understanding, awareness of rural. Rural and urban municipalities, not against each other, together need more power and resources combined with vehicles for regional cooperation. The federal and provincial governments are unlikely to give up power unless forced. I heard a politician say in Twillingate when we had a big surf conference, power is never given, it is taken. Well, I don't think we're about to have a revolution. We're too bloody comfortable in Canada, and yet we are limiting our capacity so much through our existing institutions. Canadians need to care about and understand governance and demand change through democracy. Read our book, Remote Control, which came out of the Twillingate Conference through ICER Books at Memorial. We have a lot in common, but the largest... Oh, I've repeated my conclusion. Sorry, I was editing on the plane. So I'll finish on that. Happy to have questions, comments, and hopefully that made sense.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. I'd like to open up the floor now to questions, both people here, and I certainly encourage anyone who's listening on the phone, anyone who's on the internet, to type in your questions or just give us a sign. What's the best way if people just... Yeah. So definitely don't feel that because you're not in the room you can't ask a question. Does anyone have any questions right now? Are there any questions right away? Yes, because then people can hear who are listening.
Thanks very much. It was a terrific presentation, lots of ideas. And just to get to the heart of it, am I oversimplifying it to say that you're suggesting that more government services overall should be decentralized and move into rural areas, and that the urban economy generate the revenue to support that? Is that an oversimplification?
Yeah, it's also inaccurate.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask, because I wasn't sure on that last point, your second conclusion. I wasn't clear about what you were saying about the decentralization.
I think decentralization of fiscal authority and powers over certain functions need to be moved from the federal government and the provincial government to the regional level. And most regions are rural and urban working together. I'm not arguing for more government. In fact, you would have, I suspect, much more efficient, cost-effective government at the local level. There are boardroom tables in Ottawa that are more expensive than what most local organizations run on for 3 years. Every secretary in most federal departments have BlackBerries, etc. So I love the European Union concept of subsidiarity. And you can debate whether they actually practice it, but they preach it to help sell the EU. And it comes from the Jesuits dealing with the Catholic Church. Canada's built the exact opposite principle of subsidiarity, and it's that triangle I showed. The federal government has the most power, and in the Constitution it has the residual powers, the declaratory powers. So where there's shades of gray, the feds have it. Provinces have a lot, and there's been lots of back and forth with fiscal changes over the years with EI and so on. But municipalities and sub-provincial have nothing except what's evolved ad hoc piecemeal. With subsidiarity, you say, what makes sense at the local level to get the jobs done that are best done at the local level? And one of the buzzwords in the global economy is think global, act local. Well, I don't know how good we are at thinking global, but we're hopeless to be able to act local because we don't have the tools.